I drove to her birthday party and saw her with him through the window. I stood there for exactly 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I know because I checked my phone when I walked up to the front door, and I checked it again when I finally turned around and walked back to my car. 4 minutes and 11 seconds of watching my wife laugh with another man the way she used to laugh with me, back when we were young and stupid and thought love was enough to carry a marriage forever. My name is Marcus. I'm 43 years old. I work in construction management. I coach Little League on weekends, and until 9 months ago, I was absolutely certain that my wife Diana was my best friend. I want to tell you what happened. Not because I'm looking for sympathy, and not because I've figured out how the story ends. I'm telling you because I spent 3 days sitting alone in a hotel room trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And the only way I know how to process anything is to say it out loud. Diana and I met at a friend's cookout 17 years ago. She was wearing a yellow sundress and arguing passionately with someone about whether Chicago-style hot dogs were an abomination or a work of art. I took the opposing side just to keep her talking. We were married 2 years later, in a small ceremony in our parents' backyard in Columbus, Ohio, with 43 people watching and her grandmother crying the entire time. We weren't a perfect couple. I don't think perfect couples exist outside of greeting card commercials. We had our friction points. I worked long hours. She felt I didn't prioritize the things she cared about. She had a habit of going quiet for days when something bothered her instead of just saying it. I had a habit of assuming that silence meant everything was fine. Two people with complementary blind spots, building a marriage on top of them. But I loved her. I want to be clear about that. Whatever came after, I loved her completely and without reservation for 17 years. That matters to me, even now. The birthday party was for her best friend, a woman named Cassandra, who turned 40 in early October. Cassandra had rented out the back room of a restaurant called The Lantern in our neighborhood. A nice place, exposed brick, low lighting, the kind of spot that makes everyone look better than they actually are. About 30 people were invited. Diana had been talking about it for weeks. She bought a new dress. She'd made a playlist for the drive over. I was supposed to meet her there at 7. I was coming from a job site in Naperville that had run into complications, a subcontractor issue, the kind of thing that cascades into 5 phone calls and a migraine. And I texted her around 6:30 to say I was running late but on my way. She responded with a thumbs up. Just a thumbs up. I remember noticing that and thinking nothing of it. I pulled into the parking lot at 7:42. I could see through the wide front window that the party was already in full swing. People standing in clusters, someone dancing near the bar, the soft orange glow of the restaurant making everything look warm and easy. I sat in the car for a minute, decompressing. I had concrete dust on my jacket. I used the rearview mirror to straighten myself up, took a breath, and got out. I was maybe 20 feet from the entrance when I looked through the window again. Diana was standing near the far corner of the room, close to the fireplace. She was wearing the green dress she'd bought, the one she'd shown me twice on her phone, asking if I liked it. And she did look beautiful in it. She always did. In the way that you look at someone you've known for 17 years and your eyes still adjust to them like there's something new. The man standing next to her was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a sport coat over an open-collar shirt. He had one hand resting on the mantel beside her head, leaning in slightly, not touching her, but close. The way you stand close to someone when you want them to feel the proximity. Diana's face was tilted up toward his. She was smiling, not politely. Not the way you smile at someone at a party because you're supposed to. She was smiling the way you smile when someone says something that reaches a part of you that doesn't get touched very often. I stopped walking. I don't know how long I would have stood there if a couple hadn't come out the front door and forced me to step aside. I pressed myself against the brick wall next to the window, out of the direct line of sight, and I watched. He said something close to her ear. She closed her eyes for half a second and laughed, threw her head back the way she does when something actually reaches her. Not just a courtesy laugh. He looked pleased with himself in the way men look when they've gotten a reaction they were working toward. I checked my phone. 7:48. I had a choice. I could walk through that door. I could go in there and put my hand on my wife's back and say, "Hey, sorry I'm late," and introduce myself to whoever this man was, and watch both their faces carefully and decide what to make of what I'd seen. I could be an adult about it. I could be rational. I could give her the benefit of the doubt that 17 years deserved. I also could not make my legs move. I stood outside that restaurant for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I watched my wife be lit up by someone who was not me. And somewhere in those 4 minutes, Something shifted in me that I hadn't felt in a long time. Not anger exactly. Something quieter. The feeling you get when you've been slowly suspecting something, and you suddenly understand that the suspicion was correct, and the understanding is somehow worse than the suspicion ever was. I took out my phone and typed, "Pulled into the lot. You look great in that dress. I'm gonna head home. Long day. Have fun." I hit send. I turned around and walked back to my car. I sat in the parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching the front door. Waiting, I suppose, to see if she'd come running out after me. She didn't. At 8:02, my phone buzzed. The message said, "Oh no. Are you okay? Feel better. Get some rest. I'll be home by midnight. Love you." I stared at that message for a long time. I drove to a Marriott 12 minutes from our house. I paid for 2 nights with my personal card, the one she didn't track. I ordered room service, which I barely touched. I sat on the edge of the bed in a $180–$90 a night hotel room 11 miles from my own house and tried to figure out what exactly I was doing. The thing is, it wasn't just that night. Once I was sitting alone, with nothing to do but think, the pieces started arranging themselves into a shape I didn't want to look at. The business trip in August to Denver. Her company didn't have an office in Denver. I thought that was odd at the time and then let it go. The Friday evenings that ran late, the dinners with work people I'd never met and somehow never been invited to. The way she'd started sleeping with her phone face down on the nightstand. The laugh that had slowly stopped appearing in our kitchen. I wasn't naive. I was willfully blind. There's a difference, and it's not a flattering one. I didn't sleep that first night. By 3 in the morning, I had gone through 17 months of behavior in my memory, and I had convinced myself of everything and nothing simultaneously. I'd had no proof of anything physical. I'd seen a woman I loved smile at a man at a party. People smile at people at parties. I was sitting in a hotel room catastrophizing because of a smile. But then again, I knew my wife. I knew the difference between her public smile and her private one, and what I'd seen through that window was private. She called me at midnight as promised. I watched the phone ring. I didn't answer. She texted, "You asleep? I'm home. Missed you tonight. Hope you're feeling better." At 12:47, she texted again, "Marcus," and then at 1:04, starting to worry. "Let me know you're okay." I typed back, "I'm fine. Staying at a hotel tonight. Need some space to think. We'll talk tomorrow." I put the phone face down on the nightstand, just like she'd been doing for weeks, and lay in the dark until the sun came up. She called 11 times between 1 and 7 in the morning. I answered on the 12th call. At 7:41, when I'd had enough coffee to form complete sentences. "Where are you? What's going on? Are you hurt?" "I'm not hurt," I said. "I'm at the Marriott on West Haven." A pause. "Wife, resharing. I came to the party last night," I said. "I saw you through the window." The silence that followed that sentence lasted 6 seconds. I counted. 6 seconds is a long time when you're waiting for someone to respond to something like that. An innocent person responds in 1 second. 2 maybe. 6 seconds is a person doing math. "Marcus, it's not. I know what I saw." "You don't know what you saw." "I saw you with a man I've never met," I said, "at a party I was supposed to be at, smiling at him the way you used to smile at me." Another pause. Shorter this time. "Can we please talk in person?" "Who is he?" "His name is Tyler." "He's a client." "Marcus, nothing is happening." "Okay. I need you to believe me." "Okay," I said again. And I meant it in the way you say okay when you mean I understand what you're saying, not I believe it. I stayed at the hotel for 3 days. She called every morning, every afternoon, every night. On the second day, she drove to the Marriott and sat in the lobby for 2 hours before I agreed to come down and talk to her. We sat in the far corner of the lobby bar, 2 cups of terrible hotel coffee between us, and she talked for 40 minutes straight. Tyler Egan was a marketing client whose account she'd been managing for 8 months. They'd met for coffee twice, she admitted that. Lunch once. She said the Denver trip had been legitimate, a conference, but Tyler had also attended it, and they'd had dinner the last night. She said nothing physical had ever happened. She said she knew she'd been inappropriate. She said she knew she'd allowed herself to feel something she shouldn't have, and that she'd been telling herself it wasn't serious, and that watching me text that I wasn't coming in, and then seeing his name absent from her recent calls when she checked her phone in the Uber home, had been the moment she understood, viscerally, what she'd been doing. He texted me on the ride home, she said. I didn't respond. I blocked him this morning. I need to know something, I said. And I need you to tell me the truth. She held my eyes. Okay. Were you in love with him? She looked down at her coffee. A long moment. I don't know, she said. I think I was in love with the version of myself I was when I was talking to him. Does that make sense? It made more sense than I wanted it to. I love you, she said. I have always loved you. I got lost for a while, and I'm telling you that directly because I don't want you to wonder. I nodded. What do you need from me? She asked. I thought about that for a while. I need you to understand that me leaving last night was not me being passive, I said. I left because if I'd walked through that door, I would have done something I couldn't take back. I left because I wanted to protect what we have enough to give myself time to think before I destroyed it out of anger. She was quiet. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that nothing happened, I said. Something happened. Maybe not physically, but something happened, and we both need to deal with it. I know. I'm not coming home today, I said. I need one more day. And when I come home, I need us to agree to go see someone. A counselor, someone who can help us talk about this correctly, because I don't trust myself to do it on my own right now. She nodded. Yes, whatever you need. I went back upstairs and sat by the window for a long time, watching the parking lot below. Couples moving in and out of the hotel. People with luggage, people without. A man carrying a little girl on his shoulders, the little girl laughing at something only she could see. I watched them until their car pulled out of the lot and disappeared. I want to tell you that when I came home the next morning, everything felt resolved. It didn't. The house felt the same, and completely different at the same time. The way a room looks after furniture has been moved, and you keep bumping into the space where things used to be. We were careful with each other in the way that people are careful when they know they're standing near something fragile. We did start seeing a counselor, a woman named Dr. Patricia Hennessy, who had an office downtown, and a way of asking questions that made you understand. You'd been avoiding them for years. In our third session, she turned to me and asked, when was the last time I had told Diana something I was genuinely afraid to say? I opened my mouth to answer and sat there for almost a minute before I realized I couldn't remember. That's when I understood that this wasn't entirely a story about Tyler. Tyler was a symptom. The story was about two people who had gotten so comfortable inside their routines that they'd stopped being uncomfortable together. And uncomfortable is where intimacy actually lives. We'd been partners for so long that we'd forgotten how to be strangers who chose each other. I don't know what the future looks like for us. I'll be honest with you about that, because I think you deserve honesty after sitting with me this long. We are still in the same house. We are still going to sessions every Thursday. We have days that feel like we might actually find our way back to something real. And we have days when I catch myself looking at her across the dinner table and feeling the echo of that window, that green dress, that laugh. What I do know is this. The night I walked back to my car in that parking lot, I didn't walk away from my marriage. I walked toward it, toward the version of it that deserved to survive. Whether or not it survives is still being decided, but I was not willing to let it end in the parking lot of a restaurant out of pride and anger. I was not willing to let it end on someone else's terms. So I left, and then I came back, and I'm still here figuring out whether that was the right thing. I think it was. I think it still might be, but if you asked me to promise you a happy ending, I'd have to tell you I've stopped trading in promises I can't guarantee. What I can tell you is that I still know the difference between her public smile and her private one. And on a Tuesday evening, about 3 weeks after that hotel stay, we were standing in the kitchen after dinner, not saying anything in particular, and she looked over at me from across the counter and gave me the private one. I don't know what that means yet, but I held on to it,